I'm Jillian Wall. I'm a senior at Bentonville High School as well. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for the prepubescent voice cracks that are going to be going on today. Okay. Judges ready? Timekeeper? Okay. So I have this friend. His name is Carter, and he called me last week. Carter is a sophomore at the University of Indiana, in Bloomington, Indiana, in fact, and he wants to be a trial lawyer when he grows up. He's majoring in political science right now. And, of course, Carter was over the moon. He had received his first jury summons. Now, if I'm faced with being accused of a crime, I definitely want Carter on my jury. He's passionate about the jury process, he's passionate about law, and he believes that we must weigh evidence, most importantly in rounds. However, in the current jury system, Carter likely wouldn't actually be picked to serve on the jury in question. When the question was posed about whether or not we believe that the trial by jury is important, I do believe the right to a trial by jury is important. However, I believe it had more historical importance than it does today. I think today, now, in the way that it is, we should get rid of the current trial by jury system that we attempted to create. In fact, according to the American Bar Association, we started with Henry II, way back in England, making a group of 12 people help decide land disputes. That's great. Ideally, we do want a jury of our peers. If I was coming up to a trial, I'd want a jury of my peers, people who speak like I do, think like I do, for example. But that's a lot of times not how the system actually works. There's three major reasons why I think we have problems with the jury system today and why we can't defend it in its current status. One, a lot of jurors don't actually want to serve on juries. Two, they often don't have training or expertise to handle these cases. And three, they're often ineffective at solving the biases that they're supposed to be able to account for in the government. So, on my first point, jurors don't want to. We all kind of know this. In fact, when I started doing research for this topic, I obviously Google searched and tried to find out, where do most people believe? And most options that came up were like 9 quick fire ways to get out of jury duty. That should tell you something about how we view jury duty as a society today. In fact, according to Circuit Court Judge Kenneth Popejoy, who presides in Illinois, the knee-jerk reaction of everyone is that jury duty is an inconvenience to me. And we've obviously seen this. People don't want to miss work. People don't want to miss school. A lot of times, this also skews the balance of jurors. If you're working minimum wage and living paycheck to paycheck, maybe you can't afford to take 4, 5, 6 days off for a trial. Maybe that's a major reason why these people are underrepresented in these juries. But also, when it happens like that, we end up with people, college students, who are passionate about the system, also often don't have the opportunity. Think about when you were in your own bachelor's degrees. Would you have wanted to miss that many days of class? Or would you have wanted to, but known you probably shouldn't? The major second reason is that they often don't have the training and expertise required to understand these trials. A lot of these trials deal with things like patent law. It's not always systems as clear as we would like them to be. It's not always man A shot man B, for example. It's not always these things that we feel like we would have strong opinions about. In fact, a lot of times it deals with strange and complicated parts of law that maybe we don't understand as everyday citizens. In fact, according to law professor Peter Van Kappen, you wouldn't want lay people acting as doctors, so why would you ever want these regular people deciding the fate of defendants? If you think about it, there are examples like this in the medical profession today. In fact, I strongly want to be a doctor, and so when you look at things like transplant boards are made of people who may or may not be connected to the case in particular, but all have the expertise to understand what goes into things like organ transplants. The third reason is also that they're ineffective in solving for the biases that we hope to solve for in our government. We obviously want to protect against government tyranny. We don't want the government to be able to discriminate on the basis of sex or race or religion. However, according to Daniel Brown, a defense attorney who practiced in both Toronto in Canada and New York City in the United States, he said that a lot of times the way that we select our jurors ensures that a lot of them have similar viewpoints. In fact, you can never have, for example, a major criminal conviction, or maybe people in your family maybe cannot have gone through similar situations. What that means is we remove voices who may have a unique perspective on maybe a police brutality case, for example. Judges and assessors would be able to make the best decisions in these cases because they're able to look at both the plain black and white text of the law and also what that actually means in particular cases. A lot of times when people are just talking about attending, or when they're allowed to select between a trial by jury and a trial by judge, people are told to select a trial by jury if they want to be sympathetic defendants. Essentially, what that means is we're not valuing evidence in the way that we need to be. If we want to put people up there to give them a sob story in a way where people will be like, oh, I feel bad for this person, yet judges and assessors also have hearts. They're able of seeing cases in which the evidence is there and that there are troubles. A lot of times, jury nullification is the answer proposed by people who believe strongly in that concept of jury trial. However, jury nullification is often enough to disqualify you from serving on a jury, knowing about it, and especially if you agree to be a proponent for it. So, essentially, what I believe our solution would be is the South African system. South Africa, in fact, in 1969, eliminated the jury trial altogether. They judge in panels of 3s, a judge and 2 assessors. The 2 assessors are not at all connected to the case. They're able to make these decisions for the greatest good for the greatest number of people and solve for the problems that we see in our jury trials today. For these reasons, that I'm a strong advocate that we don't value jury trial in the same way that we used to. Thank you.
Gillian.
Yes, sir.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Very well spoken. I didn't catch any of those, what did you call it, prepubescent voice cracks?
Yeah.
That was not noticed at all. I'm glad that you took a risk and went the contra route. I would have stated that a little bit more strongly at the beginning of your narrative. Now, having said that, I loved your constant use of narrative. I felt like you were telling this story, and that's what I do every week. You know, we live in story. We don't live in point A, point B, point C. We like to tell stories to one another. That's why social media is so popular, because it's visual and it's verbal story. And you did an excellent job, even of disguising your research, which there was abundant research. I really like that, but you disguised it in the narrative, which is incredibly effective. So great job of doing that.
Thank you.
Really appreciated it.
So I echo that. Great job. Great job. It's been awesome here from all of you. Different viewpoints, different ways of presenting it. It's great to come in and not hear the same 8, 9 speeches. I mean, it's awesome. I thought you were extremely comfortable, which is a hard thing to do. And we know that sitting over here. It's a hard thing to stand up there and be comfortable and present your words clearly and slowly. So great job on that.
Thanks.
You know, in your narrative, you provided a solution. That's a great point. And I also agree that it was engaging because you did abundant research, but you brought it to us in a way that we could understand it. And so, great job.
Thank you.